Hi, everyone. Good evening. Happy Friday. I hope all is well. You know, it's raining here on the East Coast. Wherever you're watching from, I hope you're enjoying the weather. I hope you're in your house, you know, nice and warm. I'm just coming here with some, regular schmegular degular things. And hello to everyone that's joined. If you missed this live, you can always watch the replays. And or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, which this will be on YouTube, and some clips will be on Twitter. So that is that. But let me just get to this real quick. So we have COVID. COVID is still a thing here. It's not gone. For those who saying COVID is gone, COVID is not gone. It's still here. So according to the Johns Hopkins University in Medicine website with their COVID Resource Center, we have 516,744,039 global confirmed cases of COVID-19. And the death toll, the global death toll, is sitting at 6,249,530. Yeah. U.S. confirmed cases are at 81,831,854. And the U.S. death toll, I won't be surprised if I get a news alert that we have reached the million mark. 997,318. So, confirmed cases of COVID, starting with the global confirmed cases, are sitting at 516,744,039. The global death toll is at 6,249,530. U.S. confirmed cases are at 81,831,854. And the U.S. death toll is 997,318. And vaccination doses as of yesterday, 443,561 Americans got the vaccine. They got one of their doses. And that can mean their first dose, their second dose, or the booster. And overall vaccination rate here in the USA is at 67%, which 220 million Americans are vaccinated. Keep in mind, the U.S. population is 330 people. So as I state the numbers of how many confirmed cases we have around the world, over 500 million confirmed cases, over 6 million people dead. Here at home, we got over 80 million confirmed cases and nearly 1 million people dead from this virus. And yeah, people still think this shit is over. No, this shit is not over. This shit is still among us. And according to the White House, they are preparing for 100 million Americans to catch COVID once more by this fall into the winter. So when people say COVID is over, no, it's not over. Is this an endemic? Not sure. But because of the botched up response in the first year, and Republicans in the second year, and even in the third year, refusing mitigation efforts and responding to the public health crisis, is the reason why we're still dealing with COVID in 2022. After 2 years of learning how big of a threat this is, even though it was a threat before the national emergency declared it as a national emergency. Right? Yeah, we're dealing with that nonsense. So for people to say we're out of this, no, we're not. We're still dealing with this. You should still wear your fucking mask. You should still get vaccinated. And that's another thing with vaccines. I wish people would say that vaccines will cause bodily harm to you. No, what cause bodily harm to you is you not wearing a mask, unvaccinated, catching COVID, and don't know when you're going to get off a ventilator, because 9 times out of 10, you're not getting off that shit. Look at the DJ Slay thing. He could have got vaccinated. There's a lot of panels and a lot of education that will educate you about the vaccine. Instead, you want to be a dumbass and not get vaccinated. I told one person, yeah, you think you are immune from COVID? You're not immune from COVID. And you're going to the worst places, COVID state, Florida. Yeah, you're going to catch that shit. And I'm not jinxing anybody, but I'm normally right about these things. Not wrong. No. And trust me, you don't want COVID, because I know people that had COVID, and some people got long COVID, and some people caught asthma because of having COVID before the vaccine came out. So mess around if you want to. You will find out. Either you will be alive catching long COVID, or you'll be elsewhere, and we don't want to know where that is, because I sure don't want to be there. I got an assignment to complete on this earthly ground while I'm still here. Yeah. Hello, everyone that came on. I just stated the numbers, but if you want to watch the replay where I state the numbers, you can watch the replay on Instagram or see the uploaded video on YouTube real soon. So I want to get to this thing about Roe versus Wade. As you know, this year, Roe versus Wade made 49 years. And if still alive in our country, and if it's still settled law, we will celebrate 50 years next year. But, I would just like to, read the opinion, because the opinion from the Supreme Court, because you know we got a 63 Supreme Court. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. And out of the 3 Supreme Court justices, 5 of them are really hard, staunch conservatives. So, Samuel Alito, a Bush appointee, George W. Bush appointee, was one of the main people that dissented from, from the Roe versus Wade, and say why he doesn't consider it to be settled law. Even though, yes, we all know Justice Roberts is a piece of shit, but Alito always go unscathed. We know about Thomas. We know about the recent 3 appointed justices. But Alito always go unscathed. All the time. So I have some of his dissent here. So I'll just read some of it. I won't go in depth. And this is based on the Thomas E. Dobbs, State Health Officer of the Mississippi Department of Health, and their organization. And this is all based on the Mississippi law. So, here goes what political. I hate political, but they have the dissent here. So this is it. Justice Alito delivered the opinion of the court. Abortion presents a profound moral issue on which Americans hold sharply conflicting views. Some believe fervently that a human person comes into being at conception and that abortion ends at innocent life. Others feel just as strongly that any regulation of abortion invades a woman's right to control her own body and prevents women from achieving full equality. Still others in a third group think that abortion should be allowed under some but not all circumstances, and those within the group hold a variety of views about the particular restrictions that should be imposed. For the first 185 years after the adoption of the Constitution, each state was permitted to address the issue in accordance with the views of its citizens. Then in 1973, this court decided Roe v. Wade, 410 U.S. 113. Even though the Constitution makes no mention of abortion, the court held that it confers a broad right to obtain one. It did not claim that American law or the common law had recognized such a right, in its survey of history ranged from the constitutional irrelevant, its discussion of abortion and inadequately, to the plainly incorrect, its assertion that abortion was probably never a crime under the common law. After cataloging a wealth of other information having no bearing on the meaning of the Constitution, the opinion concluded with a number of set rules, much like those that might be found in the statute enacted by the legislator. And this is the stuff that's highlighted in yellow. At the time of Roe, 30 states still prohibited abortion at stages. In the years prior to the decision, about a third of the states had liberalized their law, but Roe abruptly ended that political process, imposed the same highly restricted regime of the entire nation, and in effect struck down the abortion laws of every single state. A Justice Brian White aptly put it in a dissent, the decision represented the exercise royal judicial power, 410 U.S. at 220. It sparked a national controversy that had embittered our political culture for a half century. Eventually, in Planned Parenthood, Southern Eastern Pennsylvania versus Casey, the court revisited Roe, but the members of the court split the three ways. Two justices expressed no desire to change Roe in any way. Four others wanted to overrule the decision in its entirety. And the three remaining justices, who jointly signed the controlling opinion, took a third position. Their opinion did not endorse Roe's reasoning. It even hinted that one or more of its authors might have reservations about whether the Constitution protects a right to abortion. But the opinion concluded that stare decisis, which calls for prior decisions to follow its instance, required adherence to which is called Roe-centering, holding that a state may not constitutionally protect the fetal life of... anything less than the opinion claimed that the court... I just want to go to page 198. No, I can't go to page 98. But this dissent here, this is another one that's interesting. Roe's abuse of judicial authority. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptional, weak, and the decision that has had damaging consequences. As far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed the debate and dependent decision. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people elected representatives. The permissionability of abortion and the limitations upon it are to be resolved, likely important questions in our democracy, by citizens trying to persuade one another in the voting. This is what the Constitution and the rule of law demand. So it's 98 pages of Samuel Alito, the guy that goes unscathed, of his opinions why Roe should be overturned. Conservatives like Justice Alito Thomas, Barrett, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Roberts all concocted this thought that abortion is murder. That's a conservative platform. Conservatives want you to believe that when you have an abortion, to save your own life, because you don't know if you can't carry the full term or if your pregnancy will kill you, they believe it's murder. They believe if you have the babies can get adopted, not knowing that the adoption agency and children being adopted, there's a systemic issue on that. Black kids don't get adopted fast enough than white kids. But they don't know that. Like I said, Samuel Alito goes unscathed. But he canceled all his events and his speaking engagements after this was leaked. And for Roberts to say he wants to conduct an investigation, it's contradictory. It's stupid as fuck. But Republicans have been campaigning on this whole abortion thing since 1973, when this became the law of the land. When Roe v. Wade came the law of the land back in 1973, Republicans wanted to make sure they can do anything to overturn this shit. And they're putting out all these laws in local governments that say local elections matter to ban abortion, even if you're carrying in the weeks that you don't even know when you're pregnant, right? This is what we're dealing with from the quote-unquote Republican Party, because they're the party of insurrectionists. I call them the Grand Insurrectionist Party. They're not even the Grand Old Party. They're the Grand Insurrectionist Party because they embrace racism. They embrace white domestic terrorism. They embrace extremists. And stating religion in the wrong fucking way, right? This is what the Grand Insurrectionist Party stand for. Formerly known as the Grand Old Party. And everybody talking about when Thomas and his wife getting investigated, that is to be determined. I have no idea. But I wish the media would report it more. Don't come after Democrats and anything. Come after the court. Come after the Senate. So, hey. And what does this mean for women's rights? Well, we already know what this means. It's putting a muscle on our pussies, our vaginas. Let me sound intellectually correct. Putting a muzzle and restriction on our vaginas. I'm sorry, but I'm not in the business of having white men and some indentured servants on the court, Clarence Thomas, or handsmaid tale, Amy Coney Barrett, to restrict my pussy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm not adopting kids from another country. I'm sorry that your wife never had babies, Mr. Thomas. But, yeah, it is what it is. And what they're going to attack next. The Grand Insurrectionist Party is going to go after, let's see, marriage equality, Brown versus Board of Ed, the Loving Law, according to the junior senator of Indiana. So they're going after all of this stuff. And let's keep in mind, when the Grand Insurrectionist Party talks about abortion is murder, they need to also, preach about, their children not having sex with so many people. Because they're not teaching sex education. And when you don't teach kids sex education, you know what the fuck happens? You lucky the person has a baby. They could catch HIV, which can morph into AIDS, hepatitis C. I mean, it's a lot of diseases out there, right? Yeah. So, I'm not in the business of Republicans putting a muzzle on my vagina. And speaking of the Republican Party, the Grand Old Party, which is now the Grand Insurrectionist Party, because you guys encouraged an insurrection on our capital. You guys have no right to put out laws that restricts women from having kids, laws to not serve people water waiting on lines to vote, restricting people's access to vote on top of that, and reversing public school education fairness amongst kids of color. Let's be clear about the Grand Insurrectionist Party, formerly known as the Grand Old Party. You guys are not the party of Lincoln, even though Lincoln was not a saint. You guys are the party of Reagan conservatism, which was bullshit. You guys are the party of restricting people's funds, which are conservative hawkness, fiscal hawkness ideology. You guys are the party of backward ass globalism, because you really don't care about people in other countries. And you guys are the party of white supremacy, because you have embraced it before Donald Trump and after Donald Trump. So when people say, let's prosecute Donald Trump, when it will get us to a place where we can, be united, we're not going to be united until white people do the work and realize that, the majority of them are racist. So to the Republican Party. Why you're having an evolution problem? Because you keep holding hands with white supremacists. You in bed with them. You take their money. You restrict access to people voting. Taking away waters while they're waiting online. Cutting funds from social programs that will help kids actually improve the way of life. Let's see, restricting access to women to get affordable health care when it comes to their reproductive rights. I mean, you guys have always been on the wrong side of history. And you will continue to be on the wrong side of history no matter what it is and how it looks like. As long as you keep embracing white supremacy, you will be the party of destruction and just plain evilness. And speaking to the Grand Insurrectionist Party base, white women, not white men, because we know white men is a piece of shit, but white women, this message is for you. I got like 2 or 3 questions for you, maybe more, I don't know, but like 2 or 3 questions for you. I want to know why you keep voting for a party in high numbers that wants to take the right for you to choose what you need to do or what you want to do with your body. Why you keep voting for the party that consistently takes away access from people that look like me to vote in elections. Why you keep voting for the party that keeps cutting funds for social programs that will help your kids that go to after school. Or restrict funds from public education, which your kids seek a public education. Let's see, limit access for your fellow black women, your fellow brown women to get the jobs that they desire to get. Limited, funds for Pell Grants. Why do you keep voting for this particular party? I have an answer. Because you want to maintain and retain the white supremacy. Because let's keep it real. Yes, it benefits white men, but it benefits you white women. Because if anything, white women will always get a leg up before any other group of women. And that includes me. I will not get the privilege that you white women get. So when most of you keep crying about your reproductive rights, you need to reevaluate why the fuck you keep voting for a party that's going to limit your access for your right to choose. Until you come up with that answer, I don't want to hear a motherfucking thing from you. And speaking of more white women, now the majority of white women, we all know they vote for the GOP because they're the main base. But to white women that's on, in the center and moderates and the left, that's crying about, Roe versus Wade, I would like to know, where were you back in 2016 when the Democratic presidential nominee, Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton, sounded the alarm, the whole entire alarm, about the Republican Party planning to take your right away to choose what you want to do with your body? You wasn't paying attention and refused to pay attention to Hillary Clinton because you kept listening to Russian disinformation. You listened to the dumbass white men in your circle that were willing to stay home and not vote for the most qualified person against the least qualified person to ever run for the leader of the free world. You white women voted for third-party candidates instead of voting for a qualified woman who had the skill set to run this country. And now you're screaming, my pussy, my vagina, my reproductive rights, voting rights, screaming about everything, screaming about Donald Trump being locked up, but not answering the question why you voted for the third party candidate or stayed your ass home. Until you have a legit answer, I would like for you women to keep your fucking mouths closed. And yes, I'm grouping the white women in here because you guys are the reason why we're still in this fucking shithole. You are. Because black women, we did our part. 94% voted for Hillary Clinton, while only 47% voted for her. That's a big number. That's a big gap. If you do math, that's a huge gap. Only 47% of y'all voted for Hillary Clinton. Why you didn't have a conversation with your white sisters? And I know some of you will go in my mentions on Twitter or try to find me on my social media and saying, well, Chantay, you're grouping all white women together. Why you keep doing this? I keep doing this because it seems like you guys don't get it and don't understand. All of this stuff is happening in 2022 because you guys could not bring yourself together to vote for the most qualified woman to run for president in our country on a major party ticket back in 2016. You guys are the reason why we're still in this fucking shithole. And instead of learning your lesson from 2016 of when you don't vote, bad shit would happen, you continue to vote for the bum that occupied that White House in much higher numbers. You increase your points by 2 percentage points. You went from 53% to 55%. So you didn't learn a fucking thing. And the white women in Virginia definitely didn't learn, because 57% of y'all voted for Glenn Youngkin, who doesn't even know from his front to his ass. So, white women, if you're offended by this video, I suggest that you can either unfollow me, mute, or block. But if you come in my mentions and say some stupid shit, I will publicly embarrass you. So there you have it. And just whiteness, right? It seems like that's always been the issue. We got the far left, aka the progressives, aka the Bernie bros, and even some of the Warrenistas that were Bernie bros. You guys voted for Jill Stein and stayed your ass home. And that includes some of the high teps out there that did the same shit. You guys are all on my Twitter page crying about your reproductive rights, crying about the voting rights, crying about tangibles. Democrats need to deliver us some tangibles. But where were y'all in 2016? Nowhere. You guys were nowhere. Literally nowhere. Okay? Nowhere. And to Anna Kasparin, this is especially for you. Your little theatrical performance, your Oscar nominated, because it's not Oscar winning, Oscar nominated performance, that outrage, you were one of the main people that deterred a lot of folks to stay their fucking ass home or voted third party. You and the animal rapist guy. You were the ones that encourage people to stay their ass home or vote third party. You guys are the reason why we had that bum from Queens, Jamaica Estates, occupying the people's house. So when you go on a little tangent, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. I don't give a fuck about your feelings because you didn't give a fuck about my feelings as a black woman who showed up with 94% of her black sisters, who was willing to save democracy from the bum from Jamaica Estates. So Anna Kasparin, you can take your fake outrage and go the fuck somewhere the sun sets somewhere. Because I am not here to listen to that bullshit. And that goes for some of the high temperature that's on the left. The abolitionists talking about the tangibles and the student loan forgiveness. If you don't have your voting rights, you won't have student loan forgiveness. You won't have reparations. You won't have your reproductive rights. You won't have nothing. You won't even have crumbs. So I would like for the Leslie Macks of the world, the Bree Newsoms of the world, and the Breonna Grays of the world to shut the fuck up. Because y'all keep deterring people to not vote. You guys will be the reason why we're still in this fucking shithole. And I got nothing left because I'm so sick of everybody. This is going to be a diplomatic message to all the people in 2016 that said this election didn't matter. Well, guess what? 6 years later, we're dealing with voting rights issues once again. the state of your reproductive rights being taken away, racism, and much more. So when y'all touted that shit saying it didn't matter, guess what? It did. And thanks to y'all, we're dealing with so much other shit going on, even overseas. Because you decided to let a bum from Jamaica Estates occupy the people's house. And messed up our reputation around the world. So thank you to your negligence of not showing your fucking ass up to vote. Thank you. I hope you learned something. Something. Because you didn't learn shit. Can you imagine a sophomore in college getting pregnant and still had to pay back those loans? Yeah. It's sad. It's a sad scenario. It's a sad scenario. But people really need to really pay attention, because everything was on the line, and people took this shit as a joke. There's people that even voted for Donald Trump as a joke. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't funny. Because I grew up in New York. Donald Trump was a snitch. He snitched on the mob. He did a whole bunch of shit. He's lucky to even walk around this earth alive. Because if I was anybody from the Gambino family, I would be really upset. Like you had a whole recording on me from the FBI, I'll be upset. Because the moms actually kind of did stuff for... They actually did stuff for people and looked out for a lot of people. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, on this note, I would like to thank everybody for watching. And also, let's give a shout out to Corinne Jean-Pierre, who became the first African-American woman, black woman, to be our press secretary, and also the first LGBTQ woman. That is huge. That is a plus. I always love Corinne. She's amazing, and she's highly educated, and she got this job. And she's going to do well. Going to do very well. But until then, have a good night. And thank you so much for watching. And shout out to, all the people. Shout out to my cousin from South Carolina. Shout out to her watching. She always watches. I hope you don't tell my aunts that I be cursing. But, thank you so much.